This year, 2024, LETSHUOER is celebrating 8 years of anniversary. To mark that special anniversary, they have released a special IEM, a magnetic planar in the form of LETSHUOER S08 here. And this S08, priced very competitively at just 99 US dollar, comes in a very attractive package, I would say. Simple yet attractive, as you can see here. It is pretty much the IEM itself here, okay? And also this a collection of these silicone tips, two type of them. This carrying case, and I think most importantly, if you look at this cable here, it comes with this premium looking and also premium function, which is detachable modular plug. It comes in 3.5 mm single-ended termination and also this 4.4 mm balance. Entirely constructed of metal, CNC machine, anodized aluminum. Let's just take a moment to appreciate the build and the beauty of this S08. As you can see here, it is definitely no-nonsense kind of design. In fact, it reminds me a lot to the 2019 Shure tape IEM, which LETSHUOER released at that point of time. And from that point onward, they have decided to revive the design into this S08, which is kind of a bit angular. And then despite, entirely being made of metal, as you can see here, I was able to wear it quite comfortably. And talking about the wear factor, while it is comfortable, I will admit that, while walking in the outdoors, in let's say a noisy environment, I find the seal kind of a bit just average. I was still able to hear ambient noises coming in, but at the very least, when the music starts playing, I was able to enjoy my music without that much of interruption from the outside noise. What you're going to find inside is a single magnetic planar, 13 mm, with the impedance rating of 26 ohm and rated at 105 dB of sensitivity. So pretty much I would say that, it is fairly easy to drive, and through indeed, I was able to drive it properly with, the kind of output which I would consider as usable from my phone here, Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV, directly from this 3.5 mm single-ended. But because this is a magnetic planar, it is always recommended that you scale it with power. And I have been spending quite a lot of time using this S08 with this favorite depth of mine, which is iBasso DX180 from the 4.4 mm balance here. And also, I spend quite a lot of time using it with this favorite dongle of mine, which is Onyx Alpha, and also iBasso DC07 Pro. So to maximize the most, to get the best sound quality from this S08, because it is a magnetic planar, I would highly recommend that you put power into it. If you have been following the IEM industry, the development of in-ear monitors in the market nowadays, you would notice that almost every month, we are seeing new IEM being released, even for magnetic planar. So how does this S08 pitch into that very competitive market? So let's just have a closer look at the sound itself, the way it presents the sound. Straight out of the box, immediately I told myself, wow, this thing doesn't sound like a typical magnetic planar. It is, in fact, sounding more like a very well-tuned dynamic drivers, and I will explain why. Throughout the entire frequency range, from the upper frequency, lower frequency, and all the way to the upper frequency, it is definitely super smooth sounding. There's no hint of edginess to it. There's no hint of being metallic at all. Because if you're familiar with certain type of magnetic planar, especially from the hi-fi man type of magnetic planar, then this thing is definitely non-metallic at all. Super smooth sounding throughout the entire frequency range. I am repeating myself here. So let's talk about the sound itself, how it is being tuned. I would classify it perhaps similar to the kind of somewhere a hybrid between V sound curve to Harmonish kind of sound presentation. And why Harmonish? Because let's talk about the lower frequency itself. The lower frequency of this S08 is definitely smooth. Okay, it does offer the kind of transient response which magnetic planar is known for, but the timbre and the tonality of the lower frequency itself resemble a lot to a dynamic driver again, rather than magnetic planar. So it is, instead of being, let's say, fast with the attack itself, it is kind of a bit focusing more on being smooth. So you can expect the edge of the resolution for the lower frequency kind of a bit smoothen out, dampen. It does appear crisp enough, but I think the general tuning for it is just simply smooth, okay? And with regard to the lower frequency, then if you love Harman type of bass, which means that a lot more focus on the sub bass rather than a mid bass, then you're gonna love this. But the general tuning of the bass itself, the lower frequency, is definitely much higher than what I consider as being neutral or transparent. So there's a lot of coloration in the lower frequency. It does appear very pleasing when you subject it to certain type of music, especially pop music, electronic music, people, songs from Madonna, songs from Texas, or even songs from pop music from Diana Krall. But it may appear kind of a bit subdued if you subject this S08 listening to certain type of percussion or even rock and metal music or instrumental music which require a bit more focus on mid bass. So yes, this S08 is not so emphasized on mid bass. It focuses a lot more on sub bass. Just remember that. And when we talk about the mid range itself, again, same thing here. Pretty much colored as well. It does not offer the kind of transparency which I am hearing from certain type of more transparent IEM, obviously. And when I say not transparent, it is definitely colored. There's a hint, huge, actually, not huge, but fairly, a lot of coloration, warming effect to the mid-range itself, to a point that, female vocal, especially female vocal, which are classified as being contralto, that deep chesty type, or male vocal, which is baritone, would appear warm, lush, and frontal. So if you love that kind of vocal, definitely you will love this S08. Frontal, warm, and immersive kind of vocal, but that is not exactly transparent. And when we talk about the upper frequency, now this is definitely not for treble head, okay? If you love sparkly, energetic treble, then probably you're gonna be disappointed. It does contain still fair amount of macro detail and micro detail, and the extension seems to be fairly extended, but it does not extend to a point that I would consider as highly detailed or resolving. It is still there, I can feel it, I can feel the decay itself dispersing very smoothly, but it is definitely nowhere near being offensive at all. So if you are sensitive to treble, definitely S08 is what you want. And when it comes to technical aspect, the soundstage, the presentation of the soundstage for this S08 is pretty much normal, I would say. It is not exactly the widest sounding, which I have listened to at this price point especially. And it is kind of a bit circular, traditional stereo kind of stereo presentation, which means that it is definitely suitable for music, but not so suitable for gaming or binaural type of music. How does this S08 fares against the rest of the competition, especially when compared against the other magnetic planar which already existed in the market? Let's just proceed comparing it directly with something like this, my favorite, HEDIS MP145. This HEDIS MP145 is a V sound curve tuned IEM, and I'll just simply put it this way. When it comes to the element of richness, sound richness and musicality, this S08 is definitely the one which is more musical, but it is also more bassy. So if you love big bass, especially Harman type of bass, then this would be more appealing as compared to this mid bass focus HEDIS MP145. Also, when it comes to technicality, this MP145 is still the widest sounding IEM when it comes to the presentation of the soundstage. It is wide, open, airy, very airy. This is more like, normal kind of size soundstage, not exactly holographic, but at least it is also very airy. And definitely when it comes to the presentation of the upper frequency, the treble itself, you can be rest assured that MP145 is still the king when it comes to micro and macro detail of the treble. So it is more suited for people who love slightly bright sounding upper frequency, the kind of treble which is energetic, airy and vibrant, and this is a bit more safe tune when it comes to the upper frequency. Now let's just compare this S08 against my favorite here, which is Sivga Nightingale. You might have seen me mentioning this quite a few times because this is simply my number one, my favorite, my most used magnetic planar up until today. I use this on daily basis. I just simply love this IEM. So when I compare the two of them side by side, okay, one thing that I observe is that this S08 and this Sivga Nightingale share a few things in common. Both of them are super smooth sounding, analog sounding, does not sound metallic at all, and they are very good with the sound texture. So you can expect full-bodied sound from both of them. But the key differences between these two is that I would just simply say Sivga Nightingale does offer a bit more of prowess when it comes to technicalities. It is more open sounding and more circular wide sounding and a bit better with macro and micro detail. So this is a manner of saying that S08 is just slightly less resolved as compared to this S08, compared to this Sivga Nightingale, because this Sivga Nightingale scales even better with more power. Now, please take a moment to pause this video and click on the link provided below in the description for any other IEM ranking spreadsheet. So, as you can see here, this LETSHUOER S08 scores a respectable 60 out of 100 with all the elements considered after testing it quite extensively for quite a while. And I would just simply put that this LETSHUOER S08 is a very well-rounded IEM, which is easy to like, okay? Which is easy to satisfy the need for highly musical kind of output, which is fairly analytical at the same time and never offensive. So especially if you are into modern type of music, like pop music or even electronic music, I would definitely see that this S08 being highly favorable among many competition available in the market nowadays.